time I do one for the lady. Hey, I think it's time I do one for my lady. Hey, wet, 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 wet. Ooh, she got that wet, 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 wet. Ooh, she got that wet. Ooh, let me see you in your bathing suit. Let me see what you can do. Let me see if you can pop, lock, and drop it on his dick, baby. Let me see what you can do, baby. I make it wet, wet, yeah. You know I make you squirt, baby. Super soaker in this shit, baby. Super soaking in this shit, baby. Ooh, yeah, baby, I got goggles in that shit when I go real deep in that shit, yeah. Yeah, wet, wet. Ooh, you got that wet, yeah, wet, wet. Ooh, soaking, I'm poking. Riding dick like a roasted, ayy, 3 mil motion, riding that dick, yeah, I swear you bad, baby, you a stallion, yeah, thick like a stallion, I'm living and feeling you, everything that you do, yeah, nice face with a cute waist, little cute peach, Georgia peach on your ass too, let me see what you can do, let me see what you can do, wet, 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 girl, you got that wet, 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 girl, you got that wet, 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 girl, you got that wet, 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 ooh, you wet, baby, soaking wet, baby, now you fucked up all my Gucci sheets, baby, yeah, I swear you wet, baby, yeah, sorry that I got you all wet, baby, yeah, got you super soaking all over the sheets, baby, got you super soaking all over the sheets, baby, yeah, I'm in that wet, 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 you soaking, you poking, yeah, I like you moving, hey, put it in your mouth, baby, gon' suck it, you ain't gotta be shy, baby, you ain't a virgin, let me see you do that shit, let me see you twerking on his dick, yeah, you got that wet, wet, I wanna see it squirt, you got that wet, wet, I wanna see it wet, 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 yeah, ooh, you got that wet, 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 girl, you got that wet, 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 yeah, one take.